name's Nick. I was a theater alum here at LMU, and I hate public speaking, so forgive me if I seem a little nervous. I grew up in a very privileged, sheltered neighborhood, and so coming to LMU was even more privileged and just beautiful. And what they're saying about walking between the rich and the poor, that had never occurred to me because of how and where I was raised. And so my first trip down to Tijuana to help build homes, part of the De Colores trips, was, needless to say, eye-opening. Because you go from one side in San Diego, lush, green, everything's prosperous, to Tijuana. And just being there and being with God's people and helping them and giving back to the community, to the people that need our help the most, from us who have so much to give, our time, our energy, and donations of money and materials. Being down there and being with the families and seeing the joy in the children's eyes, just having us down there for people to play with, to talk to. I don't speak Spanish, but they would talk my ear off about, I don't know. It was always a sad moment to come back to LMU, sad and happy, knowing that the people back here at LMU had no idea what we went through, even though it was only a weekend. We went through so much in those short 2 days of sleeping on the floor, eating food that the families give so much back to us. They're giving the food that they're eating, that they're cooking. And it's a humbling experience to go there and, but walking between, as I said, between the rich and the poor, after that first trip, it seemed so much more clear. And after I graduated, I kind of lost purpose. I kind of lost track of service stuff, and trying to get back and trying to find a purpose again with my life has really been about giving back to the community, giving back to people of God's community, of God's faith, of my faith. So, thanks.
So there are just so many things I have scribbled on this piece of paper.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. I'm Hannah. And as I said, I just have a lot kind of rumbling around in my head and especially in my heart today. But I think one of the things that impacted me most about what I just heard was that we must identify with suffering if our lives are to mean anything. And I think of anything that I've learned at LMU, I think that's the most valuable thing that I've taken with me. I'm a senior, so I'm about to graduate, and I've had the gift of being of service in many different capacities, in both a service organization and in CLC. And I think one of the most impactful relationships I've actually had at LMU came last semester as I was interviewing Andre from Homeboy for the Voices of Justice class, because when we kind of created our friendship, it was amazing because when you kind of get past barriers with people, like any type of preconception you might have about who they are, and actually enter into their humanity. I think that's one of the most powerful things that can be so transformative and is seen in all of the transformative work that we've heard about today. I think that there's, that truth that we are not to believe that we are innocent in any of this, and that my life has a lot to do with the way that I've lived my life impacts the way that Andre lives his too, and that I may have grown up in Colorado, but There are different societal, things going on in California that we're all interconnected, and so many things going on in El Salvador and all over the world today that there's not a single person who isn't connected to another human on this planet. Like, we're all connected and responsible. We are responsible for one another, and we belong to one another. And I think that when we really allow ourselves to be present to one another and allow ourselves to love as we are called to, I think that that's the most amazing thing we can witness. And as we see the beautiful lives that have been given over in service, and we dedicate ourselves to giving our lives in service, that is how things are going to change. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for all the work you do, to my peers as well. And I honestly and earnestly believe with hope that there is much to be done, and it's beautiful we get to do it. So.
Hello, my name is Michael Bachmeyer. There's a few points. I was trying to look through my notes and find a single point to kind of key on, but there's two. So the first, I think, relates to what both Hannah and Nick have already mentioned, just that walking between two worlds, and as Hannah said, how interconnected those two worlds really are. And I think that I would want just to take it one step further to the concept of solidarity. I think that's something that when I had the privilege to walk with the people of El Salvador for about 10 days, a few weeks ago now, that is something that I learned the most about through that experience. Just really what walking with a group can mean, and really walking those two worlds, and really seeing that line fade away between those two worlds. That it really, that the margins on one side and the privilege on the other really are supposed to meet if we want to accept Jesus' challenge for us. And that, as Sister Arlene said, that we have the opportunity to go back and forth and have creativity in both worlds, in bringing those worlds together. And then I think that making the world one and really seeing that interconnectedness is vital to moving forward in our world, because our world is so global, yet certain aspects the distance between the two worlds is getting larger, even though the upper end of the world is so globally connected. And I think that's just a vital mistake that us as humans are making. But I think the concept of solidarity, when we were in El Salvador, we spent the week with a group called CEAS, with its headquarters in San Salvador. And there was a lady that came to speak to us about the scholarships. LMU sponsors many scholarships for students for high school, because it does cost a lot, mostly for travel to the high schools from the rural areas to the cities for high school. And she was talking about it, but one thing that really stood out to me was the understanding that solidarity is for both sides. The people that are coming to serve need to understand what it means to work with people, not to work for them. You're not there to help them, but you're working with them. But she also mentioned that the people of El Salvador need to accept that and not just take it and do but like work together as a group for the better good, the best that it could be, for the greater good, as a Jesuit would probably say it. That I guess that working together, and it was really something that I'd always, selfishly had looked at it from my perspective of like, oh, when I'm going to a community, or specifically for me, I go to SAGE, which is an after-school program in Watts, on a weekly basis, and when I travel there, I need to be present to the children and be there with them, and I never really thought about when I'm going to a community to serve, that the people in the community are accepting my love for them and giving it back to me. And through that process, we truly grow together. And I think that has been a very impactful thing in my life, and something that really, that understanding of solidarity really deepened with my experiences in El Salvador. And then the second point, I know I'm talking for a while, but the second point I like to talk about is the Christian-based communities. That was something that was really inspiring in El Salvador. I think that Sister Mary said that like talked about at the end of like the nutrition classes, they'd pray, tying the social message and the Bible message together. And when I was there, we talked to a few different communities, and the Christian-based communities were popular in all the different communities of El Salvador and throughout Latin America. But I think that one story that really stood out when she said that was, we talked to a man named Don Pablo, and we spent a whole day with him in his community, learning from his stories throughout the war. But at the end of it, all he asked for to come speak to him is Bibles in Spanish that he can give to the community. And we first we gave him the much appreciated marshmallows, flavored marshmallows that are very popular in El Salvador. He lifted the marshmallows up and he's like, "This is communion. Like, this is going to bring people together in these communities, and that's what communion is supposed to be." And so that was really impactful about the Christian-based experience, Christian-based communities for me. It's just that understanding of communion is when people are together. When God's children are together, that's communion. And the other thing is when we gave him a single Bible in Spanish, and we sent more later. We just didn't have time to go to the bookstores before. He was jumping up with joy like a little kid, and he was a 80-year-old man, in his 80s, and he was jumping up and down, standing up in joy to get the single Bible. And he's like, "Tonight I'm going to give this to a youth in this community, and they're going to be able to pray with it and learn from it and have one for themselves." And that was that really brought me to tears that day. And I think that was just something that really stood out on the understanding of really tying together the social message with the Bible message. So.
Hi, my name is Brenda, and I am a senior urban studies major. I had the opportunity my sophomore year to travel to El Salvador as well, and I think that experience was the first time that I truly understood what service was and what it truly meant. And as we've all kind of talked about, this concept of walking the line between the two worlds of the rich and the poor, I don't think I realized I had the privilege to do that. That I think I just thought that I could go between these two worlds so effortlessly and, with grace and ease, and I didn't realize that that is something that is very hard to do and something that weighs very heavy on your heart. Going to a remote island in El Salvador and having a family give up their bed for you and sleeping in a hammock in their house, I think was one of the most transformative experiences I've ever had. And one, experiencing poverty. I'd seen a lot of poverty, but never truly lived it. And I think that allowed me to be in community with these people and for them to give so much when they had so little. And just, one night was such an amazing experience. And in El Salvador in general, just learning about Oscar Romero and this, I'm sure this idea of the master builder and the worker, and that we are prophets of a future not our own, and that, as we work together on this continuum, we may never see the end results of the work that we're doing, but just knowing that together we can work as one to eventually create this, hopefully beautiful world that we can all live in together. And Miss Mimi over here actually said in a reflection that a lot of times we don't have a lot to give, but sometimes just being there is enough. And I think being in El Salvador, that's when I learned that I didn't have a lot to give, but just being with these people was enough. And that's what true service is. The second point that really resonated with me is that sometimes it just takes one person to fill your heart with compassion, and that a lot of times in many of the work that you all do, it is tiring and there are many forces working against you, but it's that one kid, that one person that really makes a difference. I work at an elementary school in Gardena, and there's this one little kid named Quali, and he is 8 years old, and he's a squirrely troublemaker with buck teeth, and he lights up my life and is the reason why I want to be a teacher, and I'm going to be a teacher for the next 2 years in Chicago. And I think that it is just that one person that when the days get rough or I don't feel like going to work or whatever, it's that one person that fills up my heart with compassion.
Hi, my name is Mimi Jacoby. I'm a sophomore English and history major. Love every minute of both of them. And I had the incredible opportunity to go to El Salvador a few weeks ago with Jen and Michael. And I can say without doubt that it was one of the best and most incredible and most transformative weeks of my life. And the reason that it was is going off of what Michael said, it really taught me probably the most important lesson I've learned at LMU and maybe in my life so far. And that lesson is that there is an incredible difference between serving and serving well. And to me, serving well completely kind of destroys this barrier of server and servee. It's being completely in community and in solidarity and walking with people and being with people. And even though I'd been on service trips before, my trip to El Salvador was like Brenda was saying, it was the first time that I really understood what it meant to be with people. We lived with people and we danced with little girls and we just did all these different things. One of the last days that we were there, we went to a community that was trying to fight mining issues, and it was really interesting to see the issues that are going on presently, as well as also seeing the incredible history that such an incredible country has endured and is now coming out of and just being completely beautiful. So the talk that Sister Elena just gave, the quote that really stood out to me the most is, we are not called to be spectators. We cannot be locked up in our comfortable worlds. And that's just really what I want. This talk really solidified everything that I had learned in El Salvador, and I'm really excited to be here because it's bringing it back. And basically, I hope that when I'm her age, I can look back on my life and have given as fully and as wholly as she has, and really dedicated my life to something meaningful. And I hope it's something to do with community. That's just what I want my entire life to be about, is being with people, because I truly believe that that is the most that anyone can give. One of the major lessons that we learned is that you can't fix things, you can't always fix things, but you can be with people, and in that moment, that is the most important thing that any of us will have.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Rodriguez. I'm a junior civil engineering major. And hearing the talks today have really just put everything into perspective, just hearing our experiences versus the sisters' experiences and how they have given their whole life to service. It's something that I really admire and really hope that I can do. So with Sister Eileen, what she first said was walking with the rich and sorry, I'm really nervous. Walking between the line of the rich and the poor. So just kind of going off of what Nick said, how he had come from privilege. I'm kind of on the other side of that. Not necessarily that I was very poor or anything, but I didn't come from that much privilege, and coming to LMU was a huge privilege. So just being able to see that line and knowing that now I can walk between it has been really cool. I also traveled to El Salvador, so there's 4 of us here who have traveled to El Salvador, so I don't know, I think that says something, Sister Elena. The first time I went was last year, and we also had an island homestay, a one-night homestay, and that's kind of how I realized that I wanted to go back and help and serve. And in the summer I was able to return. I returned for 2 months with the help of Marty, and I would go to the island and serve there. I taught English and math, and I didn't know this at the time, but Sister Elena was down there, and I passed by her community every single time I traveled to the island. And I wish I would have known that she was down there, so I could have stopped taking public transportation. I would always hear Tierras Blancas when they would announce it, that was the stop coming up. So looking back, I wish I would have known so that I could have seen the work that she's currently doing down there, that I want to be a part of one day. Another thing that really resonated was what Sister Elena said, that the powers of the world do not let Jesus' message be proclaimed. And I think that we are all a part of those powers of the world, that whether they're negative or positive, we are part of that. And so just what's stirring in my heart is that there's so many different directions that we can go, so many different ways we can help. And personally, I don't know where I stand, where I should help with life here at LMU. We go to school, we get a job after. Is that the path that I want to take, or do I want to finish school and serve right away? Is where I'm kind of confused, and this talk has really helped me realize that I do want to, I love to serve, and I want to continue doing that, but how is the question. How can I serve? During the summer, we started an engineering project on the island that we visited, trying to bring them clean water, and Mimi and Michael worked closely with this, trying to bring clean water to the community, and we've been successful. We've been making a lot of positive change. So seeing that through LMU, through my experiences here, I've been able to do that has been really awesome. And just what else can I do? What should I continue this or do something else is really the question. So these talks have really helped me see everything and try to figure out, have brought up these questions. How can I continue to serve, and in what way do I want to continue to serve? So, yeah, thank you for all the speakers.